Hey everybody, welcome to Intentional Academy Live. This is episode 11. I'm Tony Farrar, joined by Nicole Farrar and Justin Thomas, and we're here to help you squeeze every last drop of value out of your education. We're here to show you how to win with the power of intentional learning so that no matter where you are in life, we can help you get control of your time, get control of your money, and launch that dream career. Tonight's going to be a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight we're going to talk mostly about homework, why students hate it, what we can do about it, both as teachers and as students. I'm going to pick on teachers a little bit today.
Good.
It's new.
Yourself, I can join in on that.
Self-deprecation again.
No problem.
But we also got some really great questions from the intentional community about some hobby money and career questions and things like that. So
Cool.
it's going to be fun. How about we do it?
Sounds good to me.
Let's go.
All right. You may have seen already, this is my theme of the day. Dear professor, your homework is lame.
Yeah.
Students hate doing homework. When I was an early undergrad, freshman, sophomore in particular, my goal for homework was get it done as quick as possible. Not because I wanted to be on top of things, but because I would rather be doing anything else. And I think a lot of students are probably in that boat. And the truth is, I don't blame them.
Seems like busy work, I know, but I'm sure there's more to it.
You just hit one of my 3 bullets.
I love when I do that.
Wow. I swear she didn't read this ahead of time.
I didn't.
I think to pick on faculty to start,
Okay.
most of them, many of them, stop using the word most. It's like too
many?
Too committed.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't want to come off soft, but many of the faculty that I have encountered, there we go, seem to have absolutely no idea how to design effective homework. And I am more than happy to admit that I was and probably still am guilty of this to some extent. The most common approach to designing homework that I've seen is that they flip to the back of the chapter, scroll up and down through the questions, and they find the ones that they wish their students could answer.
Okay.
And they assign them as homework.
The one with the most interesting picture.
So before you continue, let me just ask, do they have any concept of live call? Do they have any consideration for like workload? Like, do they factor that in?
What do you mean?
Like, are they thinking, okay, I feel like this is an appropriate amount of homework for the amount of hours that this course is?
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of students say things like, why is there so much? Why is there so much? And I'm wondering, okay, are you taking too many credits, or do the teachers just willy-nilly like, all right, well, this is what you need to know, so this is the homework I think is necessary for you to learn it, and not really factor in the number of hours it might take? That's all I'm wondering. Like, how much, that's my main complaint I hear from people, is that there's so much of it. So I'm just curious.
In the middle.
In the middle, okay.
Everybody's got this unspoken rule that it's about 3 hours per credit. I think the problem is that one of the things they don't know how to design is how long does a question actually take a student to
Okay,
get.
so the student's sitting there for hours and hours when they think it should only take 15.
It's the average student, right? It's not
everybody. Some people are faster,
the brightest student or the fastest student, things like that.
Right. And that's something that you have to be pretty intentional about to practice this. But my theory on a problem is that if however long it takes me, I'm going to multiply that by 4.
Okay.
And that's how long it would take a student to do it. And that's when I'm designing an exam. For homework, it's even harder because nobody ever comes in and tells you how long they actually spent. They just tell you, oh, it was too much. And it might just have felt like too much because they're taking a lot of classes that all had homework due that day.
Yeah.
Or they've got a job. And
nobody, I doubt a student is seriously sitting there timing a specific course's.
Sure. I mean, our goal was just to get it done before Boy Meets World came on.
Exactly. Priorities.
So yes, but no. I think what really happens is first few times you teach a class, you fine-tune the number of questions per assignment based on how much grousing.
Okay.
So that's part of it, right? But at the end of the day, that method of where you just kind of scroll around and look for questions that you wish they knew how to answer, that's not a learning experience. That might be a decent way to design an exam.
Okay. Well, because you're hoping that you taught them the thing that you want them to know.
Sure. But homework is supposed to be acquiring new knowledge experience, not a demonstrating it.
Mm-hmm.
Homework isn't supposed to be an open book take home exam. It's supposed to be a scaffolded learning experience. That's
a good point.
my 3 keys
Okay.
to creating effective homework. Students need to be interested in the topic. Students need to see the relevance of the assignment to their learning.
Okay.
And students need to experience an appropriate level of challenge.
Okay.
Let's unpack.
Okay.
Students need to be interested in the topic. I think that the reason that most people end up teaching a particular class is because they went off and were so passionate and so interested in it that they studied it for years, got a PhD, and took up a career teaching that thing.
Okay.
Now you're face to face with a 19-year-old who hasn't found their passion yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
you must love biology.
Sure. Well, we forget that it's not inherently interesting to everyone.
You never do that.
And well, that's funny, right? Because I try to teach like in a really motivational and hyped up way, and I still have students saying, "Your lectures feel like a waste of time."
Ouch.
Yeah, well, at least they're open enough to tell me.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Talk about you behind your back would be way worse.
Well,
so I think job number one.
I got a question
about that. Yeah.
Your lectures feel like a waste of time because they're so good, and I go home and I can do the homework immediately. So why did I even go if I didn't even have to work? Or your lectures are a waste of time because I didn't learn anything, and your homework is so difficult that I don't learn it. I feel like I'm not learning anything there either. Interesting
discussion on course design might go somewhere else. Maybe that's next week. We could talk about lectures and what we do in those. I don't know. We'll have to brainstorm that. Right now, the reason I'm getting that feedback is that I'm trying crazy things in my classroom, and I'm fully aware of it. I'm fully aware of it. We are trying to marry some very interesting concepts in some very early academic career students' minds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard.
Yeah.
But I think job number one of being a faculty is being a salesperson.
Okay.
Sell the students, take them on the journey you went through, and we think bullet points are going to work for this, and it just don't. You go through an experience in your life that causes you to think or know or believe something. You can't just condense that into a couple of bullet points on a black and white slide and have everybody else come to the same epiphany.
Yeah.
And
I think something else, though, is that students aren't always interested in the classes they have to take. And so it's definitely going to be extra work for the teacher to find a common thread for them to be interested in. I mean, like,
absolutely.
This is at least kind of cool, like maybe relate it to something. I don't know. I mean, even...
Right.
I struggled in chemistry. I just could not care less. I don't know. It was rough.
Yeah, but if they do something really cool with chemistry, like what it does in the real world that's involved in something that you were interested in, maybe, I don't know, maybe having...
Funny thing about, at least my experience, was I was in a 600 person lecture trying to learn chemistry. So it's very difficult to make...
How many?
Like, it was probably about 600 people in McBride 100. Yeah,
yep.
trying to learn chemistry, and it's very difficult to be 100% engaging with 600 students at once. It's I don't know how any professor could possibly do. I'm not saying there's no way they could do it, but I
think it's also subject matter.
Sure.
World regions.
Oh well, no.
Yeah, he was throwing Big Macs into the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain topics.
Flour.
Yeah, but there are certain techniques you can use in certain subjects. You can't. I mean, chemistry. You can't like make a experiment. I don't know.
Here's the slide. Here's the concept. Use your clicker. Take a quiz.
Fall asleep.
But be careful. It's not that we're trying to turn every lecture into a variety show.
That would be pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's that we're trying to communicate the whole image of the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One of my favorite people on the planet is famous for saying, "Nothing is uninteresting until a teacher makes it so."
Okay.
There's nothing in the universe that isn't interesting until somebody makes you not like it, which usually happens, by the way, when you're forced to learn something that you don't understand why you have to learn. Hence the need of faculty to do a sales job.
Okay.
Some curriculum committee decides that every student needs to take insert class here, and most people don't understand why, because that part of it hasn't been communicated down.
Okay.
Which actually transitions really well to number 2.
Okay.
Well,
which is
I had one thing before you swap.
Sure.
I was forced to take chemistry. I had to take it. I had no choice. It didn't necessarily equate to what I wanted to do in mechanical engineering. Technically, I mean, you could get real deep and figure out ways. But on the contrary, I elected to take thermodynamics of propulsion. Took it pass fail, and pretty much got 100. So,
which is ironic because you didn't need one.
Exactly. So I guess there is a interest in the topic, big key as well.
Well, of course, a couple of ironies in there for you if you want to nerd out for half a second. First off, thermodynamics of propulsion involved plenty of things that were derivative of chemistry. So.
Small pieces. Small pieces.
But it was also the difference between taking a class freshman year and taking a class senior year.
Oh, that's
by senior year you had figured out that stuff.
True.
And so
yeah, like you said,
we've got a sales job to do here, which is to help people see the importance of the topic. And like I said, that segue is really good at number 2, which is students need to see the relevance of the assignment to their learning. Okay, I'm not saying being interested in doing this homework problem, but what I'm saying is believing that if they go through the activity that they're being asked to go through, they're going to learn the material.
And that it's useful to them.
Right? So step 1, make sure the material is useful. Step 2, make sure that the way that you're having the students learn it is effective at having them learn it, as opposed to feeling like busy work. Right? We've all done plenty of that where it's just fill in the blanks and this kind of stuff. And so as weird as this sounds, I've started teaching my students how to teach.
Okay.
When I give an assignment, I tell them the educational reason behind it. You're going to do this assignment. You're going to get error messages as you write this computer program. It's not going to work. And that's the point. As you wrestle with this, as you learn how to respond to those error messages, you're going to learn 6 new commands, 4 new logical frameworks, and out comes this person who knows how to code, so that when they find themselves in that experience, they are saying, okay, this is hard, but if I go through it, I know what's coming at the other end.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it just makes me think of when our parents get frustrated because they don't know how to find stuff and they call us to ask, like on the computer. And you're like, I don't know, I just like hunt for it. You know what I mean? Like that process of doing a bunch of things that don't work until you figure out what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, think back to diagramming sentences in whatever level of English that was, right? Did anybody ever tell you why you had to do that?
No.
Imagine if they had. Maybe you look back and say, you know what? I will never end a sentence with the preposition.
Or like, what's that thing where commas are important? Like,
eat
grandma or something? What was it?
It was let's eat, comma, grandma.
I was writing a tech paper at work, and I had to Google whether or not to use a or an in front of an acronym, and because acronym, and you have to basically take the sound of the first letter. So,
I mean,
weird. See, and so the students need to know that there's an educational reason for it. And so just by giving a little insight into the theory where I tell them, hey, I'm going to group you up right now because academic papers have shown that when people work in a group on this type of activity, everybody learns more.
Cool.
Not just because I only want to grade 25 assignments instead of 300.
Yeah.
Right? And when you start to tell them those things, they start to see that you haven't just shaped the class around your convenience, but around theirs.
Or the best learning technique.
Right.
There's another example from one of your teaching methods, Tony, and it's back from when you were a graduate student. I recall taking thermo and fluids and kind of in undergrad learning to plug and play. Just take an equation, plug in numbers. But you had a method of teaching, like they would just introduce the overarching law, and you just and then you just like, oh, they got this equation out of it. We can just plug in numbers to it because we can just forget a bunch of stuff. But you
Mm-hmm.
taught the law, and then you did not time your tests. So if you understood the theory and you had students do this, they stayed there for hours and literally derived the question from the highest level and worked it all the way down because they didn't know technically how to do it the quick way.
Not really recommended.
Well, now
but that
be
person
fair,
learned.
It was really cool.
No, it was really great. However,
I got to tell the story. Nobody knows.
I know.
So the record on this. So what happened was, most faculty in engineering type classes have formula sheets, and I tell students there's no such thing as a formula. There's a physical concept that we can represent with the concise language of mathematics. And so if you can write down the words for the concept, you can turn that into an equation and go. Mm-hmm. No formula sheet. I had a student come to take the exam that stayed until 5 a.m.
All night.
5 a.m. He actually, as he came
when
in
did
the room.
Start, like 6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
5
yeah.
Or 6 p.m.
6 p.m. As he came in the room, he handed me a 4-pack of Red Bull and said, "We're going to be here a while."
I didn't remember that.
98%. Yeah. Derived every equation, answered every question correctly. Now, I wish he had done that learning on the homework instead of in front of me, but the learning happened. Kind of cool. Adjusted that tactic a bit.
Yeah.
But
still, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, well, very cool.
Yeah, because we want to create situations where students learn, and we don't remember the nitty-gritty.
Yep. We
remember these peak big ideas. I could tell you today that matter is neither created nor destroyed. And 10 years from now, that will stick with you. Mm-hmm. If I tell you the equation for the conservation of mass in an open thermodynamic system, I still look it up.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for however many years now.
Well, it's that whole teach a man how to fish thing, right? If you have the basics.
Right.
Which
also kind of segues into point number 3, and then we can actually switch this over to what students should do about it, because I feel like we're ragging on the teachers here, and it's fun to hear your thoughts on what I'm up to, but appropriate level of challenge, that's number 3. When we toss just the hard question that we wish students could do and think, oh, they'll wrestle with it long enough until they can do it, that causes that question to take a long time, and it puts them in a place there. It's so deep, it's way off the deep end in terms of their experience. And so it's not even tossing somebody in the pool and expecting them to swim. It's like driving out to sea and kicking them off a boat and saying, see you back at land. Like, it's very hard. Yeah. We want students to go through the process of struggling with something they don't understand.
Sure.
But we want them to actually struggle with it until they don't struggle with it anymore.
Well, and the most extreme instance of this is when teachers give you the rudimentary problems and you feel like you've got the material, and then you get that one that makes you think on the test, and you haven't had that difficulty, that challenge level yet. So then all of a sudden it hits you and you struggle.
I've been communicating with a lot of students about that exact thing where it's too difficult and they feel hopeless, and so they don't try. So I feel like there's definitely a delicate balance there, because it's just like, I'm never going to figure this out. This is way beyond my capability. There's no like minor wins along the way.
Exactly. And it's gotten even crazier now, because a lot of textbooks offer a companion that is an online homework system.
Mm-hmm. They're talking about that too.
You type in your answer.
Yep.
And if you type in the wrong answer too many times, you start losing points on your homework.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is super damaging, right? Because all that does is it encourages, it puts a lot of pressure. And what happens is, when they feel the wrong level of difficulty, the wrong level of challenge, that's when people are tempted to go to things like these websites that have all the answers.
And not learning, just plugging in the right answer.
Copy off their buddies or whatever, because we've shifted the focus from learn something new through a struggle to don't lose any more points. I need a good GPA so I can do all these things with my life.
Yeah. That online system. I was doing a lot of communicating with students online, and something that I found a lot of was people just looking for resources to find those answers.
Yep.
Up to these things you're talking about, these online homework.
Yep. Anybody seen this problem for such and such
Yeah,
a book? Or, and then, and so what we've created, I jokingly made a picture of a mushroom cloud for Monday's post because this has become an arms race.
Mm-hmm.
Students create new ways to not actually do the work but look like they did, and faculty find new ways of caching them. And so, it used to be you could download a paper from the internet and turn it in and nobody would know, and then somebody figured out you could search for that paper and find it. So now you can find this, by the way. One of the most popular things you'll see if you go to #college on Twitter is people advertising their service of writing you a one-of-a-kind paper that can't be found through cheating. Students would rather pay that money. Broke students who are already having,
we're paying for school.
Would rather pay to have somebody else do their homework than lose points and have their GPA get screwed up. Or feel, in my mind, most of the time, what must have been an inappropriate level of challenge. So here's a weird thing. This is black and white. I did this experiment now. I had a really low completion rate on my homework assignments in my class last semester.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, you know what, it's probably that they're inappropriately difficult. Somebody's,
sure.
They're struggling. So what I did was I kept all the hard questions and I added more questions to the homework.
So like pieces to help them get further into
Nope.
it, or
no, what I did is for any topic on my homework, the students know 3 questions in a row: easy, medium, hard.
Well, that works.
Doubled the completion rate. More questions, more homework. Twice as many people were doing them.
So you really did give them more work, but did you tell them it was easy to hard?
Yeah, I told them that was the process. That goes back to step number 2 of telling them what I'm up to.
Okay, so they would say, all right, I have to do the easy one, and then it's going to get progressively harder during these assignments.
Right, so they would sit down and so here's a topic, okay? This topic has 3 questions on this homework assignment: an easy question, a medium question, and a hard question. And then they move to the next topic, and it's an easy question, a medium question, and a hard question. And we go through that cycle on every topic in the class, and everybody's getting the work done. Now, there's other things we changed, so it's not necessarily just that.
Sure,
but the point is, by having the students start with an easy question, you feel a win, you get a little traction, and it does actually cement the basic idea of that thing you already saw the professor do in class.
Yeah.
Then you ramp it up a little bit, stretch them, but just enough where it's like, I might need to think about that a minute.
Sure.
And now they're feeling pretty good. And then you throw the hard question,
and
it's applying what they've learned.
Confidence to struggle through it with the hard question.
And nothing looks like a big insurmountable wall. Now, I know we offer other support in my class, so it might not all be attributable to that, but I really believe strongly in this, that if you scaffold the difficulty, you will catch more people and cause them to fall upward instead of down.
Cool.
Which is really neat. And so
let's see what
that's what the faculty should do.
But what if you're a student?
But what if you're a student? Short version, do these things for yourself.
Okay.
If you have a curmudgeon who doesn't want to, reassess the way they're teaching, that's fine. Sorry, right? And you're going to deal with that person. But you can do all these things for yourself. You need to find an interest in the topic? Easy. Open up the internet, browse companies, search keywords from the chapter in the textbook, read articles, newspaper about current events that are happening around this topic, discuss it with your friends, and then my personal favorite, try to create something using this topic.
Okay.
What could you do with that biology problem to actually do something interesting? What could you do with that chemistry topic? You can also
go to your professor and say,
oh, sure. Well, you can politely ask for all of these.
Why is this interesting?
Sure. You can ask for all these things. I'm talking about when you're.
No, I know.
Yeah. Relevance, same deal. Very politely ask your professor why they're asking you to do this assignment, and if not, and then search around a little bit. Why do we tend to give this type of question in this type of class?
Okay. 15
minutes on educational theory. You'd be amazed what you can find. And then my personal favorite, this is the one that I know nobody's going to do, but if you do, I want your feedback because I believe that it will help you. If the questions are too hard on your homework assignment, crack open the book and find some easier ones to start with. Design your own scaffolded homework assignment. My theory, you'll spend less time, less frustration, and learn more. By giving yourself more homework.
Any advice for liberal arts?
Same exact story.
How?
Write me a 10-page paper on the Magna Carta. Okay, well, how about you write me a blog post on it first?
Okay.
Okay, but before you do that, why don't you tweet about it?
Yeah, but
What I'm saying
I
is
would
you shrink down.
struggle with that.
What I'm saying is, this research paper has to be cited in MLA format and 17 annotated bibliography and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Move to a region where you can just express your response and your theory to this thing.
Okay.
Right? Flesh out your ideas.
Okay, so just write it
with lower pressure.
Okay.
Yeah. Or, and what I really meant with tweet was go back to the other thing, which is turn this back into a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Go to your favorite hangout with your friends and incite an argument over this idea and take a couple notes. So let's wrap it up. We should answer some questions.
I agree.
We've been doing this a while. I'm worked up on this.
Let's just pick a few.
Okay, that's fine.
So I don't have to go through.
Do not let bad homework, ruin your class. Get in the driver's seat, figure out class activities that actually work for you, and go do them. And all it will cause you to do is be better at what you're trying to learn anyway, which is why you're really there. And then you can go from there and do the silly assignment you've been given in less time.
I know a person that did every problem they could. Every practice problem they could do, every piece of homework for the entire course, and never missed a point. They weren't assigned all that. They just did it. They just went and just did everything. So,
cool.
I mean,
cool. Let's get to the one that people follow.
Okay, definitely start with the first question then.
All right. So my hobby is cars. I want to spend a lot of money on my car or doing car-related things, track days, autocross, tires, etc. How can I balance my passion with my responsibilities?
Prioritize, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Figure out how much money you have.
So do you have any debt?
Well, obviously.
I know for a fact that this is a student asking this question.
Okay.
And so with that little bit of background information, one of the follow-ups that I would ask is, are you currently existing off of student loans or taking more student loans? Because if you are, and you spend money on your hobby, you're in effect borrowing money to support the hobby.
Mm-hmm. At a very high interest rate.
It's certainly not at a zero.
Well, something I would say in this, I mean, obviously he or she is saying that they want to spend a lot of money on the car, but if you're in a situation where you're in debt or have student loans, figure out ways to be in that world without spending money.
Yes, this was what I was going to say.
There's a million things you could do car related.
I'm sure. Find a buddy who's a few years ahead of you and help them work on their car and learn everything that they mistake they made, so that when you go shopping for parts, you're not buying stuff that they threw out 6 weeks ago because they found something better. Maybe see if you can't get paid to go to the events. Maybe there's a way that you can be the ticket puncher or the track setter-upper or those types of things.
My dad worked on a pit crew and he got his pass and license taken care of at the track.
Yeah, you could volunteer to just help in that arena. You could also, if the car itself is interesting, go to scrapyard, learn how the car works. I don't know what the hobby is specific if that's
absolutely. And but the point is, find ways to incrementally engage with it and scale the amount you're spending with the amount you can afford to spend.
Sure.
Right? And so what I would want to do more than anything probably is hang out with somebody who's a little more experienced and find out what they're up to. But the other thing that you could do if you've just got to jump into some of the comps and things is find the ones where your car's already competitive, right? This sport actually reminds me, or this type of activity reminds me a lot of other sports like golf and things like that, where there's this constant, people have gear acquisition syndrome. And you got to get all the gizmos and all the whiz bangs, and you crack open a magazine and the ads make you convinced that you will shave 15 strokes off your golf game if only you bought this glove, right? And meanwhile, there's people playing with crummy old everything that can school you because they just go play golf a lot. And it's the same kind of thing here where there are ways to work with what you have and upgrade along the way as you can actually afford it. So
I think that's really important. I think it's also important to, we live in a society where everyone wants everything right now.
Instant
so I
gratification.
I get that, but the years go by really fast. And if it's something that you really love, trying to be in that world in minor ways, in ways you can afford right now, knowing that your education is going to get you to a point where you can do whatever you want later.
Hey, Tony, don't you want a high-definition webcam with faster internet?
Kind of. Yes. I don't know. That's probably a better question for the people watching than for me.
No, he would rather want more climbing gear.
Yeah, right. Definitely need the roads. I'll climb
better. On our Amazon wish list.
Right. Well, yeah, but this is a real thing, right? As college students in particular, a lot of what we're told is, don't worry, soon your life is going to start. Right? And so I think it's really cool to try and find ways of engaging with that thing you like to do.
Oh, sure.
Beforehand. And so whether that's working on somebody else's car, whether it's, tinkering with your car, but not necessarily trying to make the big investments, right? Don't compete somewhere where you need to rip out your engine and put a supercharger in right now. But look forward to that day.
Yeah.
Right. I'm okay with losing a bunch of races right now, but getting the driving experience so that when it's time that I can upgrade my car and be competitive, I'm buying the stuff I actually need rather than just trying to, buy a win.
Yep.
I don't know how the rules work where they limit you and stuff, but, I used to play a car game a lot on a video game console. And my strategy for that game was go race in a really easy race and make a crap ton of money, buy a car that beats every other car that's allowed in that competition, and then you didn't even have to try. You could lap every car on every race, and it's like you could just buy the win. And if you're trying to learn to drive the car and be in this thing, maybe start with smaller.
Yeah.
Start small.
All right. What's the other one that was brought in?
Cool. So hey, thanks a lot for that. The other one I'm going to save for next week.
Okay.
Save for next week, so we can scroll through these.
All right, put me on the cursor. Where are you want me?
Thank you for answering that, or for asking that question, and I hope we got it for you. If you've got follow up, we would love to do round 2 of this. So hit me up.
Let's see.
Whoa, these are wordy today.
No, I know. Well, I found some with some explanations.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Let's start with the. Right. Nah, that's the last one we should do. Let's start right here. Justin, you've got some skimming and reading to do. Or Nicole,
I've skimmed it.
Okay.
I think I can take it down.
Okay.
All right. So it starts. I'm a PhD student in a math-heavy engineering field. We know the issue. I guess I have average math ability for my field. I'm not a genius, but not a dummy either. However, sometimes when I'm trying to complete a homework assignment or understand a paper, I get stuck in a bit of a complex math, and I find it very difficult to escape the resulting spiral of frustration and self-doubt, not caring enough, not keep trying. The approach doesn't work on homework assignments. I'm sure I'm not alone in this experience. Does anyone have any tips for overcoming it?
Awesome, Skim. I want to add one more little thing, which says that a lot of times their strategy for dealing with the frustration here is to step away, wait till the frustration goes away, and then they come back and everything works, except that doesn't work when the homework assignment is due tomorrow. Okay, now we got the whole question.
This is just a really good example of kind of what we were talking about.
What was the homework assigned?
Okay, so there is that whole part of this, right, which is if you are playing with the pressure of got to turn in tomorrow, then your brain gets stupider because stress actually physically makes you dumber.
Yeah.
So there is that whole side of it of trying to spread assignments out, especially, my deal is whenever I have an assignment, I try to start early enough that, say if it's a 3-hour class, that means I should spend 9 hours a week. Which means if I'm not halfway done with my homework after 4.5 hours, I'm in the office getting hell.
Yeah.
Can't do that if you're not starting early. So there is the whole start early part. A lot of people feel a lot more control when they do that. I actually really had trouble with the math too. The people around me were always smarter at the math part. And I think for me, what I finally gave up pride-wise, this is really specific, sorry, but what I gave up pride-wise was skipping steps. I wrote, my homework was twice as thick as everybody else's because I wrote every step rather than trying to do 3 steps in my head and not write as much, and that really helped a lot.
Another thing I struggle with is with the self-doubt aspect. I don't know, like I just started a new position that I'm now leading after only 4 months in a topic that I've never done before in a discipline of engineering that I have a master's in, but I haven't practiced professionally. And I mean, I was pushed in, but slowly I'm starting to realize that I know more than I realize I know. So when you have to give this brief in front of this captain, or you have to write this white paper, and you go, oh God, I gotta deliver this to very high up people, and I have to keep it, technical, but understand the audience. And I fear like I'm gonna look like an idiot. But when you sit down and you start to flesh out the details, you sort of realize that you do know. You feel like you know more than you actually put out there. I don't know, like sometimes I freak out, and then I go, I'll have a I'll have a conversation, and all of a sudden I'm like spewing out facts and stuff. I was like, oh, I guess I did know about that. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important when you're feeling that self-doubt to recognize that you are not the only one, that it doesn't just pop into people's brains quick and easy, that they're trying to challenge you. I mean, that's the purpose. And to address those issues that Tony mentioned with teachers, I think is really important too, because sometimes they just don't know. They don't know. I mean, you basically had to just kind of figure out based on certain responses that it may have been too challenging, and then sort of do that scaffold, thing. And so don't be afraid to approach your professor, even as a PhD student. Be like, hey, I'm a PhD student. If you're a PhD student, you've obviously done well in school to get to that level of education. That right there should boost your self-doubt. Like, you can do this.
Right. And we have built a culture that is way too focused on being right too early. What I mean by that is you still have the word student associated with your name. You are in the last place on earth that you're allowed to just be wrong. And it stinks when that comes out on your grades, and I wish it didn't. But more importantly, this is the place where it is okay to explore and to try things out that are, punch above your weight class and find out how tall you really are, kind of thing. And so embrace that struggle. Maybe you can respond with some of the tips we're talking about for the teachers, which is, figure out, like you were saying. But at the end of the day, just focus on the fact that you're there to learn it, not to know it. If you already knew it, then you're wasting your time. And so it should be challenging. It should be hard.
I think another tip that you said in relation to something else was that, kind of write down everything that you're doing to figure out and where you're getting stuck, because then when an assignment is due the next day and you can't complete it or whatever it is, you can go to your professor and say, I spent this much time on it. I don't want to keep doing this. I want to avoid this happening again for homework that's due. Like, this is where I'm getting stuck. It's not like you didn't work on it. Like, show that you worked on it and where the struggle lies. I think that every professor wants their student to learn. They don't just they're not wasting their time as a professor so that people get grades and move on. They actually want you to know what it is they're trying to teach you. So, anyway.
Yep.
All right. How do you guys try to work smarter rather than working harder in general? Because I have no idea if my hard work is already smart work or not. How can I tell if you or someone is working smarter? And just as an example, I can't tell if my code, it's a programmer, is already compact and clean or just 100 lines that are working. And they could just be optimized and written in 20 lines.
Okay.
So for me, this one's actually a pretty short answer. You're working smarter when you're following a plan and have a system. And until then, you should focus on developing one. Every time I sit down and do a problem, I kind of go through the exact same mental process I want to find the governing equation. I want to identify my system. I've got a step-by-step that I follow, and it doesn't matter what my world looks like. I'm going to go through my framework. If you can't list yours, then that would be step one, is write down what you did on the last problem and start tweaking that. And just kind of an asterisk on all of this, when you talk about having 100 lines that works versus could have been chopped down to 20 lines here, I see in the question. That's a question for me of perfectionism. Well, how do you define done? Do you need to write a code that works, or do you need to write a code that's 20 lines? Because depending on the goal, you're either working too hard or you're not working enough.
Yeah, I think the point there is, though, working smarter is being more efficient. Like, could he have just done it in 20 lines instead of wasting his time making 100? Oh,
yeah, but the 20 lines take longer to write than the 100.
Yep.
Well, I don't know.
That's the fun.
You've got that graph of amount of work put in versus amount of what you get out of it. Like Tony's 20 pages of homework for his first, PhD assignment.
Just like that. Yeah. In case you haven't noticed, when I'm getting started on something, it's easier for me to write 10 pages than it is to write one.
Yes.
I have a similar at work. I know that whenever I have to get ready for a tech review or something like that, I know I have some sort of document that says this is exactly what is expected. These are your entrance criteria. These are your exit criteria. Each product is going to have different little pieces to it, but everything can fit into a lot of this framework. So somehow, some way, there's a framework, there's a method like Tony has that you can go to and take it at its most general form and break it down.
Love it, man.
Cool.
All right, last question. Okay, so I'm a freshman, and I just wanted to know if it would be a good idea to get all of my homework done for the semester out of the way in a few weeks. I have the syllabus with all the homework that I need to do. I'll organize it and brush over it for tests and stuff. I just want more free time.
I tried this once. Did not work.
Well, I think it's important that the homework is distributed at a pace along with whatever it is you're learning. I mean, if you could do it all at once, then
if you could,
what's the point of the class?
If you could learn a class in 6 weeks instead of 14, they'd teach them in 6 week increments instead of 14.
If you could teach yourself by the book, why pay the professor in the university when you can just go buy the textbook?
That too.
Yep.
Part of this is that you're engaging in a bit of a journey with the other people in your class and with the faculty. And then in terms of all of this, more free time usually comes by working in smaller increments more often than trying to work in big blocks and get it out of the way. I'm much more effective if I work on a project an hour a day instead of 8 hours in a week or something like that.
And here's the thing, it's probably going to take you the same amount of time, whether you do it all up front or you spread it out. And so if you plan your time and you have a time budget and you know when you're going to do stuff, you actually will have the same amount of free time.
Love that. Yeah.
I mean, if you think you can somehow do it quicker all at once as opposed to spreading it out, I mean, I just don't think that doesn't make much sense.
Sorry,
it's not going to go any faster.
You just reminded me of the stand-up comedy about the drug. It was like, do I want fast acting or long lasting? Do I want to feel good now or later?
Seinfeld.
Yeah. Now he has $100.
Sorry. Well, whatever. He just did a Netflix special of some sort.
Now Netflix owes us $100. While we're at it, Cough Drops owes us $100.
Yeah, I know.
You're hanging in there. Thank you.
I apologize.
Hey, let me cycle back. I just had one more thought on the car thing.
Okay.
That student could super easy find 6 different ways to plug in on campus to do their hobby for free.
Oh, yeah.
Work on the car club.
Yeah.
Right? There's clubs with people that do this just as hobbies, but there's also competition car teams on most engineering campuses. You get plugged in with one of those. Now you're doing your hobby for free and all the while getting better at it so that when you do have the money to spend, you can.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Score. Been going a while.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Go do your homework. Stop watching.
Yeah, stop watching us. Go do your homework.
Justin, thanks. Nicole, thanks.
Yeah.
People watching. thank you for your time, for your attention.
For your questions.
If we could ask one more thing of you, it would be to push all the buttons, especially the ones that cause questions to show up, because we will answer them. And to the person who asked us today, if you'd like follow up on that, we'd love to hear what you thought, and we could go round 2 next week on that.
Absolutely. We could
come hang out with social. And what's that?
We could go deeper, because we could start working on money budgets and things like that.
Feel free to come on live with any comments. Justin will be following.
So thank you. And I hope you have a great night. Go do something on purpose, everybody.
Yep. Bye.